I love sentence diagramming, but I don't blame you if you aggressively disagree with that opinion. But my hope is that these videos show you how mastering every letter and part of speech in English grammar can transform it into a communication tool like no other. Hey folks, welcome back to the Ruiz Writing Center. I'm Teacher Taylor, and today we are going to be discussing the thrilling topic of sentence types. I promise it's cooler than it sounds. Let's get started. So what is a sentence? It seems like a really easy question, but there's actually so much more to any given English sentence than we might initially guess. For example, did you know there are 10 sentence types? Each has different components, but has the same two things. One, a complete subject. This includes the simple subject, usually a noun or pronoun, and all of its modifiers. One example is the friendly dog. Dog here is the subject, modified by the adjectives the and friendly. And two, it needs a complete predicate, which includes the simple verb and all of its objects, complements, and modifiers. One example is had wagged its tail happily. Had wagged is the verb, followed by the object tail and adverb happily. If you don't know what those are, that's okay. There are several types of verbs, including be verbs, linking verbs, and standard action verbs. We'll learn more about these, as well as objects and adverbs, as we learn the sentence types. While these two parts of complete subject and complete predicate are present in every type of sentence, their arrangement, as well as some unique components, is what determines their type, and each accomplishes something different. Today we're going to break down how to diagram sentence patterns 1 through 5 of the 10 sentence patterns. Sentence pattern 1 is the simplest, containing the complete subject, the complete predicate. The verb in this predicate needs to be a be verb to qualify for sentence pattern 1, and an adverb of time or place. Let's diagram an example. My old glasses are there. In this case, glasses is our simple subject, modified by the adjectives my and old, which are diagrammed like this. We then draw a vertical line through our baseline to separate the complete subject and complete predicate. On the right-hand side, we're going to put our be verb, which in this case is are. There, in this case, is an adverb describing a place. Sentence types 2 and 3 are very similar in their structure, and very similar to sentence pattern 1 in that both need a be verb and not, in any case, an action verb or a linking verb. Sentence pattern 2 contains something called a predicate adjective, which is an adjective that comes after a verb that modifies the subject of the sentence. One example is, the plant is green. I just got this new houseplant, and it is in fact green, and I really hope it stays that way. Green, in that case, is the predicate adjective, as it comes after the verb and modifies the noun plant. To diagram this, we would make our baseline and write plant on the subject line, modified by the adjective the, which we diagram under the noun it modifies. We then make our vertical line to divide our subject and predicate. We put our be verb is in the spot of the main verb, and then we draw a slanted line to divide the verb and the predicate adjective. This line here is visibly what sets a pattern 2 and others apart from a pattern 1. Sentence pattern 3 is very similar to sentence pattern 2, but instead of a predicate adjective, it contains a predicate noun. This predicate noun performs a very similar function. It goes in the exact same place on the diagram, but instead of an adjective modifying the subject, it is a noun renaming the subject. Here's an example. The plant is a cactus. Not my plant, but a plant. The plant. Cactus is not an adjective, it's a noun. The sentence informs us that the plant is also a cactus without adjectival description. We now know plant equals cactus in this sentence. Like I said, the diagrams look exactly the same. We put plant in the subject line, modified by the adjective the. We make our vertical line. We write our be verb is, and then we do the exact same slanted line to divide our verb and predicate noun. In this case, the predicate noun is also modified by the adjective a. Cactus renames the subject plant. Just like sentence patterns 2 and 3, sentence patterns 4 and 5 are very similar and a natural progression from sentence patterns 2 and 3. In fact, they follow extremely similar rules, the only difference being instead of be verbs, we're advancing to linking verbs. It's kind of easy to get those two confused, so here's a trick to identify the difference between a be verb and a linking verb. Be verbs are always going to be variations of the word be. Be, is, are, was, will be in the future tense. Linking verbs like became, seemed, or other variations are verbs that could be replaced with be variants and still make sense without actually being be verbs. Very confusing. Hang on, let me give you a couple examples. One is, the flower smelled nice. Now, my water clock went off. Stay hydrated. One example is, the flower smelled nice. Now, the flower is not doing the act of smelling. It is the smell. This is an example of a linking verb, as we could replace the verb smelled with was, and it would still make sense. The flower was nice, and the meaning would stay intact. Another example is, the weather seems sunny. Seems is not a be verb, but if we replace it with the weather is sunny, it still makes total sense. So if ever you're confused between an action verb, a be verb, or a linking verb, try replacing it with be or a variant, and if it still makes sense, you're very likely working with a linking verb, and you know it's going to fall into sentence patterns 4 or 5. Now, for this last example, you may have already seen the similarity it has with sentence pattern 2. The weather seems sunny contains another predicate adjective, which defines the weather. And as you can see, the diagram looks exactly the same as pattern 2, the only difference being the type of verb that we're working with. And just like the relationship between patterns 4 and 2, patterns 5 and 3 look identical. The only difference being that pattern 5 uses a linking verb instead of a be verb. Here's an example to show the difference. But because this is our last pattern for the day, let's see if we can introduce an extra little challenge to show you how to diagram prepositional phrases. The ants became a problem at the picnic. Became is not a be verb, but if we replace it with were, it still makes sense. The ants were a problem at the picnic. So we know we're working with a linking verb. We put the subject ants on our subject line, modified by the adjective the. We draw our vertical line to separate the subject and predicate. We write became in our verb spot. We put our slanted line, as we do for all patterns 2 through 5, and we put problem modified by a. But now we have this prepositional phrase, and where do we put it? Well, prepositional phrases, while tedious, always fall under 2 categories. They are either adverbial or adjectival, meaning they modify the verb of the sentence or a noun. I discuss these more in depth in other diagramming videos, but if we just look at this prepositional phrase, at the picnic in this case is describing a place, and just as we learned from sentence pattern 1, a word or phrase describing time or place is almost always an adverb. And in this case, we will diagram it under the verb. And so as we can see, problem is a noun, renaming and adding to the term ant. It is not an adjective describing the ants. This is a sentence that informs us that ants and problem, specifically at the picnic, are synonymous. Not always. Ants are cool. So, as we learned from today's examples, sentence patterns 1 through 5, while similar, each communicate something a little different by either having a predicate noun or predicate adjective, or neither at all, by having a be verb or linking verb. Their meaning changes ever so slightly and need to be communicated on paper just a little differently. If you encounter any sentences in the wild that have these be or linking verbs, try diagramming them today. And please subscribe to the Rui's Writing Center for more English content, and feel free to follow us on all of our socials for book recommendations and so much more. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time at the Rui's Writing Center.